What if you could change the future? A lot of people would take the chance to hop in a time machine and change their lives in some way. There's been countless movies about changing time. One of my favorites, Back to the Future, explores the concept of a car being used to travel through time. But a car can't fit in my pocket. Look at this thing, it doesn't even have emoji. That's why the Future Diary uses cell phones. The Future Diary, or Mirai Nikki, started as a manga series back in the wild and dangerous year of 2006, which also happens to be the year that we first met. Don't you remember? It was at that party where you were named Person of the Year by Time. Congrats, by the way. The music was blaring, you leaned into me and said, "I want an anime that has time travel, battle royale, and a cyclops." And I said, "What the fuck are you smoking and where do I buy some?" So after we got high as shit behind a dumpster, I told you about the Future Diary. I told you that it centers around the main characters, Yuki and Yuno, how they use their cell phones as a log of future events, a future diary, if you will. I also told you how it became an anime in 2011 after its original run ended in 2010. And you asked me, "It's 2006, how do you know all this?" And I said, "Wikipedia, lol." I told you the whole big story about 12 diary holders battling to the death, the fate of the world in their hands. But I was really high and I can't remember any of it. Luckily, I took a bunch of videos on my phone, so I think we can piece the story together from this. Alright, let's start with this first one. Oh shit, it's an opening song! The show opens up on a boy in his bed. This is the actual beginning. A boy in the middle of decaying, broken architecture. Some of it almost looks like bones. A pink-haired girl is trying to force him awake. By the boy's side, potassium cyanide and capsules. The girl sounds like she's in denial.
Okay. Haha. Come on. You're scaring me.
The scene fades out inexplicably to the girl with the pink hair in what we can assume is her home. She calls for her mom and dad inside a cage smattered with blood. While she sulks, she turns and her eyes are met by an icy blue gaze. And then we cut back to a boy in bed. His phone vibrating brings us to the next day, and we get to establish some setting. This is Sakurami City, a fictional city that's assumed to be in or near Kanagawa Prefecture in Japan. And this is Yukiteru Amano. A bit of a loner, doesn't talk to anyone, unlike Yuno Gasai, our pink-haired girl a few seats over. She seems responsible, extroverted, and friendly. As their teacher leaves, we get our first glance at Yuki's diary. He explains that lack of athletic ability and pure boredom forced him to find something to fill his time with. Yuki's life is uneventful and appears absent of any real authority. He claims his only friends are imaginary.
Deus. Yukiteru.
Deus Ex Machina, puppet master of the universe, and his assistant, Murmur. Deus's name comes from a plot device as old as Greek theater, meaning God from the machine. It's used to describe when a god or force from outside the story's immediate setting intervenes and saves the day. Think of the sailors from Lord of the Flies. Murmur's name comes from the 19th demon in the Ars Goetia, Duke Murmur, the Earl of Hell. So she's totally not evil. Deus operates from the Causality Cathedral within the Akashic Records. It's suggested that these records exist in a non-physical plane of reality, known as the mental plane, which is why Yuki only sees him when he's in his own head. This gives the impression of Deus being imaginary. Deus proposes a diversion to Yuki, the ability to see the future. And Yuki says, "This is the last time I take my fucking medication," and goes to bed. As night falls, we're shown that Sakurami City is far from peaceful, as an unnamed woman gets game-ended in a dark alley. The next morning, Yuki wakes up to a diary that's already filled in. He writes it off at first, but slowly, everything right down to the pop quiz and its answers comes to pass. Yuki asks how a figment of his imagination can exist in the real world, and Deus says,
"I'm just built different, bro."
He informs Yuki that his new diary of the future, or future diary, Roll credits! Is a gift from a god, and should something happen to the phone itself, Yuki will be disconnected from the host. Uneasy at first, Yuki eventually settles into his newfound power, until strange signs from Yuno and a message foretelling his death send him into a panic. Yuno confronts Yuki after class and chases him all the way to a construction site, but it's no use for Yuki to run. Yuno closes in, and...
Whoa.
Yuno says, "You really need to floss. Also, that dude that's gonna kill you is here." His name is Third, Takao Hiyama. Clever viewers will note that his last name translates to Fire Mountain or Volcano. That's a nod to Vulcan or Hephaestus, the god of fire and metalwork. Symbolism and mythology run deep in the future diary. And if that's the case, then Juno is going to show up any minute and throw Third off the building for being too ugly. Third was supposed to kill Yuki today, but Yuno foresaw it in her own diary. Her diary keeps track of everything that Yuki does. But why not keep track of something more useful like Bitcoin prices? Yuki and Yuno confront Third on the roof, and Yuki is definitely the kind of kid who plays with the namebot. With his diary destroyed, the Third fades into oblivion. Yuki asks Deus how there can be other diaries, and Deus says,
Well, Fortnite is banned in heaven, so I had to make my own.
Deus reveals that there exist a total of 12 diary holders, now 11 in light of Yuki's victory. What he previously called a diversion is actually a grisly battle royale. The competitors stand in a roundtable format as Deus explains the rules of this game. First off, the remaining 11 diary users are to hunt down and eliminate one another until only one remains. Second, your diary allows you to foresee and avoid a dead end, but your future can change just as quickly through your own actions or those of others. And 3, no holes barred. The winner of the game will succeed Deus and become god of the living universe, using technology to bring in a god. A new god. Deus' successor. A real Deus Ex Machina. Holding the first kill makes Yuki an incredible target. And that's not even taking Yuno into account. Has Yuki found his most powerful ally? And who even is Yuno anyways? Yuki wakes up more troubled than ever. Yuno hasn't let up on Yuki at all, but Yuki has plenty that he's already struggling with. His life is being threatened. He has to cope with whether or not he just killed someone. But that's too much of a moral dilemma, so... Knock knock, here's a character in a maid dress. This girl comes in asking a lot of questions. Yuki says, "How do you know so much about this show? Have you been reading the wiki?" The girl reveals herself as the 9th, Minane. And she says, "Au revoir! Omega Lul." Yuki says, "God damn, those kids were like 14. She does not give a fuck." Yuno tells Yuki that he has to trust her if they're going to make it through this. And Yuki breaks down and admits that he needs Yuno. Like, he really needs Yuno. Like, people get upset at how much he relies on her, but hear me out. We'll talk about it later.
I need you to get me through this. I'm not using her. I'm utilizing.
Hey Alexa, what's the definition of utilize?
I'm not Alexa, but I did find this for you, Hotbox.
Oh, good one, Yuki.
Attention all you grub-pod, snot-nosed little tadpoles! The Soviet block eyesore of a pen they keep you rigged up until your hormones burn out? It's been rigged.
You see, that is how you do dialogue. Minane reveals that the building is rigged with motion explosives, so Yuki and Yuno carefully navigate the school using their diaries. That bomb was so powerful it blew off the subtitles. We also get to see firsthand how diaries complement and counteract each other. For instance, Yuki's diary catalogs events as they happen around him, but lacks pertinent details about how he reacts to the events. Yuno's diary compensates by being an exclusive log of how things affect Yuki. Together, it's nearly infallible. Yuki laments his life up to this point, and it's here that we're given a glimpse into his thought process.
I kept the strict policy of staying out of things. Deep down, though, I was just too scared of getting hurt.
He wants to put himself out there, but he's scared of being hurt. It's something that a lot of us can relate to in some way. especially at Yuki's age. However, the problem with that mindset is, obviously, that you'll miss out on everything if you're always scared of being hurt. Pain is a part of living, and it's up to us to build ourselves and each other to be strong enough to be able to handle that pain when it comes, because we can't hide forever. The police arrive, and they have a diary user of their own. He foresees that killing Minane would trigger a dead man's switch. That son of a bitch is running martyrdom. Minane bargains with the staff to apprehend Yuki in exchange for the bombs being deactivated temporarily. They seize his cell phone, and Yuki pleads desperately with his classmates. In a cruel way, this is that pain that he was just talking about being realized. Yuki opened himself to people he thought he could trust, and he was rewarded with heartbreak. Yuno realizes that Yuki's classmates couldn't care less about him, and decides, fuck it, TK. And the detective guy says that thing that every tough detective guy says when the shit starts getting real. I'm going in. Sir, are you going to explain what we were doing with the terrorist in the first episode? No, and the animators never will. I'm going in. The detective introduces himself as the fourth, Keigo Kurusu. Kurusu's case diary keeps track of everything related to the case that he's currently assigned to. He claims to not be interested in being God. He just wants to do his job and come home to an open beer on the table. Leveraging the school as hostages, Minane demands Fourth kill both first, Yuki, and himself. And this guy says yes way too easy for how fast he took that first shot. Yuki begs for his life before Yuno ambushes Ninth from above. Fourth drops his gun and delivers important advice that Yuki will need to hear time and time again in this show.
If you really want your life to mean something, then get off your ass. Show us you're a force to be reckoned with. Turn that fear to advantage. Dress it up as a game face.
He's telling Yuki that if he wants to change, it's up to him to pop off. Yuki runs it down mid, and Yuno provides him with directions to dodge the mines. The student body provides covering fire. Ninth manually triggers the minefield, but the force blows Yuki directly into her. And with that, this show has better Cyclops representation than 90% of modern media. Ninth reveals her diary is the escape diary, allowing her to foresee a way out of whatever situation she finds herself in, and she disappears into the smoke. Fourth proposes an alliance between himself, Yuno, the second, and Yuki, the first. In order to draw more diary users out, he sends Yuki and Yuno out to an amusement park as bait. You guys have plenty of free time now since your school closed down over that whole global health crisis thing. Global health? What are you talking about? Ah, shit, wrong future. They actually have some very nice moments, and Yuno asks if they want to go to the planetarium. Yuki says no. That's the place that turns you into a poorly rendered 3D model if you think about it. Yuno says, what? Oh shit! Yuki asks Yuno why she's so obsessed with him, and she reminds him of a moment that they shared last year. On a career survey, Yuno put that she wants to grow up and be Yuki's wife. And while this is heartwarming, Yuki can't bring himself to trust it.
You're sweet and all, but my gut tells me you're hiding something.
Of course I am.
Ninth is still trying to escape while having flashbacks of demonetized things. The police move to increase pressure on Ninth, while simultaneously keeping careful surveillance over Yuno and Yuki. Also, Nishijima has the same voice actor as Hoin Kyoma. Nishijima can do no wrong, and I will fight anyone that threatens his happiness. While pinned by a roadblock, Ninth is approached by a mysterious figure who claims he's there to help. But if I trusted every guy who came up to me in the middle of the night, I would get kidnapped way more than I normally do. Ninth gets free drugs and gets to play Ice Cream Scoop.
I'd like to begin,
stop.
predictably
What are you
enough,
doing?
with First's true identity.
Yuno takes Yuki back home, and when Yuki goes poking around, he uncovers something that shakes the very foundation of the game. Yuki tries to tell Fourth about the bodies, but Yuno won't give him a chance. Fourth tells the two that his diary says Ninth has been kidnapped, and he's being held at the Omakata cult shrine. It's here that we're introduced to Tsubaki and her cult of followers that she surveys from the confines of her cage. It's worth noting that Tsubaki's backstory is terribly tragic. With her eyesight poor from birth, she was gifted with a different kind of sight: clairvoyance. Manifesting the gift of future sight from a young age, her parents quickly capitalized on it and began the Omikata. Tsubaki didn't mind, however. She was just happy to have time with her family. After a car accident took her parents, the Omikata cult fell into disorder. They claimed that to restore peace, they had to find a repository for their animal desires, and that became Tsubaki. And just like that, Tsubaki's safety, her body, her family, right down to the final toy that her mother left her, Tsubaki's everything, had been taken. Fast forward to today, Tsubaki reveals herself as the 6th diary holder. Her diary, the Clairvoyant Diary, allows her to see through the eyes of any of her many followers. This is to compensate for the eyesight that has suffered since she was young. The clairvoyance is a clear reference to Apollo and the Oracle of Delphi, but her imprisonment and abuse in the cult is more reminiscent of Persephone. Tsubaki reveals her diary has foretold a dead end, and she bargains 9th's release for her protection. Yuki says, "Fine, I guess I'll stay with the cult, waifu." Oh. Later that night, 6th tries to tell Yuki that Yuno is dangerous before a fire bursts out in her cage. 6th followers move to extinguish it, but instead fuel it with gasoline. They've fallen under a trance, and that's courtesy of 12th, the man holding Minane in prison. 12th, or Yomotsu Hirasaka, is completely without sight, but he's gifted with extraordinary hearing. He's eccentric, and he's obsessed with this idea of justice, and his justice obsession even extends to his diary, the Justice Diary. It foretells instances of what he calls injustices, and it does it rather indiscriminately.
6:47 p.m. Errant litter behind a desk.
What?
You're a freak.
You mean a freak who rocks?
Its sonic abilities also include a strong hypnotic power. It's under this hypnosis, he's able to make the Omikata cult members not only mindlessly slaughter one another, but also play dead to set a delayed ambush on Yuno and Yuki. They begin to evacuate the 6th, but Yuno can't bring herself to trust the 6th entirely. To be fair, Yuki is in the same boat with Yuno. He even makes it clear to her.
You want me to trust you after what I've seen? Well, I'm sorry, sweetie, that's just not possible. You are certifiably out of your mind.
The trio pushes on to rendezvous with 4th, who is busy activating the sprinklers to fight the fire. As Yuno, Yuki, and 6th make their way out, 12th gets another prediction on his Justice Diary. He sombers and hands 9th the keys to her cell, before grabbing her explosives on the way out. 4th reaches 9th in time for them to warn Yuno and Yuki about the 12th, and just in time for this badass show.
Together we form the 12th Band!
Daughtry has some weird openers these days. 12th claims that Tsubaki has been playing both Yuno and Yuki, and that the whole cult is a giant brainwashing operation. He also declares that he's ingested a timed explosive and plans to ambush 6th, giving himself for the cause of justice. Yuno, looking a little worse for wear, still confronts 12th, and using his hearing to her advantage, picks the real from among the duplicates. The bomb drops, and so does Yuno, as Tsubaki ominously seals the gates. Turns out 12th was right. Tsubaki reveals 9th was bait from the very start, and Yuno uses her last bit of strength to say, "Okay, well, you better start writing with that left hand, bitch." Tsubaki holds Yuno as hostage, and uses her as bait to draw Yuki out. But for once, Yuki finds his courage and makes a move. He uses Tsubaki's ball that he found while hiding as a diversion, and with nothing to protect her diary, Tsubaki fades into nothing. Also, 4th lets 9th go because it turns out they matched on Tinder or something. I don't know, dude. Yuki's mom is coming home for a little while. She makes me happy, so she's obviously not going to be alive very long. Yuno shows up and tries to make a good impression, but she can't understand why these magazines have no words in them.
You got fucked up!
Also, 9th gets a replacement eye from a WebMD doctor. The real reason Yuki's mom is home is because of the recent Omikata cult incident. The media ruled it as a mass suicide, which sounds better than a 14-year-old squad wiped us. One of Yuki's mom's co-workers was a victim, and she's been asked to look over her child until he can be put into foster care. This is Reisuke Hojo, supposed to be a reference to Demeter, but I don't see any grains. Reisuke likes scissors and running. Sometimes he does them both at once. Oh no! Yuno avoids serious injury, but Reisuke reveals himself in private as a diary holder. The fifth. Reisuke's come from a broken home. His parents never were really available, forcing him to become self-sufficient. His diary predicts what will happen 3 times a day, morning, day, and night, and he wastes no time trying to act on first and second. First, he tries to poison them, but Yuno is able to catch it by detecting the change in the weight of the tomatoes. I can't make that one up! Reisuke proceeds to try to tackle Yuno and Yuki one by one, beginning with electrocuting Yuno in a salt bath. However, Yuki's diary tips him off to Yuno being in danger, and he cleverly draws enough power to cause a breaker to trip. By now, Yuki and Yuno have realized, holy shit, we have to kill a 2-year-old. And fourth is texting ninth like, holy shit, these kids are losing to a 2-year-old. Yuno realizes this arc needs to end in 2 episodes, so she begins to attack Reisuke directly. However, Yuki's mom is caught in the crossfire. Yuno desperately tries to think of where Reisuke's diary could be. Eventually, she realizes it was never really on him in the first place. As a displaced orphan, his belongings would need to come to him piece by piece. Naturally, the diary is part of those. The diary he's had up to this point has been a decoy. However, things are far from that simple. Even the real diaries package is bound in a decoy, deploying a nerve agent into the air around the house. Now the real game begins. Yuno hurries Yuki to safety and heads to face Reisuke, who offers a deal. Hide and seek. The winner gets the antidote. The loser doesn't wake up. Yuno desperately searches the house for Reisuke, weaving through booby traps at every corner. Yuki wants to help, but he's on T-Mobile, so he can't get service inside of the bathroom. When the first floor is cleared, all that's left is the second, but Reisuke's been preparing for this. After flooding the stairs, he breaks a lamp on the deluge, sending a current that incapacitates Yuno entirely. As she struggles for air, Reisuke questions why would Yuno bother to fight for Yuki in a game that's all about last man standing. Yuno can only reply that she does it out of love, and Reisuke plunges the syringe into her neck. A weakened Yuki staggers up the stairs to plant a dart in Reisuke's shoulder, mortally wounding him. He resuscitates Yuno before collapsing down the staircase, leaving Yuno to give chase to Reisuke. Before plunging the knife into him, Yuno remarks that Reisuke must not know what true love is. And Reisuke, absent any example of love in his life, can only respond,
Guess not.
Reisuke surrenders the antidote before fading into oblivion. But it's too late. The poison has already done its work to Yuno, and she collapses alongside her beloved. Ninth chose to show up after receiving the original tip-off from Fourth in their conversation. She pulls first and second to safety and administers the antidote before delivering a warning to a barely conscious Yuki.
A word of advice, kid. Kill her. There's only one winner to this game, so just deal with it. Push comes to shove, mercy won't factor into how she deals with you.
It's been 2 weeks since the death of the fifth, and Deus consults the game's players to see where they stand as the game marches forward. 10th makes an odd request of Deus, and meanwhile, we're given a glimpse back into Sakurami City and Yuki and Yuno's life. Officially, Yuno hit Yuki's mom on accident while chasing down an intruder, a lie that Kurusu the fourth was more than happy to corroborate. Yuki and Yuno are attempting to return to some semblance of a normal life. Everything seems normal, right? Oh no, a character with a unique hair color. Yuki's on edge as he gets to class, and to his horror, Kosaka is there waiting for him. Kosaka wastes no time making hell for Yuki, but Hinata says, "Talk shit, get hit."
Shut it!
This is Hinata and her friend Mao. They're headstrong, high energy, and Jesus, who paid for this scene? Oh my god, they're 14! Through a flyer the school hands out, we learn that the whole area is on high alert. There's been a string of murders that left the bodies mutilated, almost like an animal attack. And Hinata says,
You guys want to go see a dead body?
Yuki is grateful to have people who are accepting of him, and this much happiness in one scene means, yep, she got fucking mauled. The mysterious boy from earlier shows up and says, "Hi, I'm Aru Akise. I'm here to be the prettiest character in the series now. Okay." The group makes a break for a nearby observation deck. Meanwhile, we're given a glimpse into the life of 10th, Garyodo Tsukishima, a man who pampers himself and his dogs. From his command center, we can see him keep an eye on the group, and through a photo in the living room, we can see that Hinata is his daughter. Akise lets Yuki know he's been following him since the Omakata cult and even the school bombing, but he refuses to mention a motive. Yuno is hesitant to trust him, but there are more pressing matters. The doors will give any minute. Yuno openly suggests leaving the rest of the group as bait, and Yuki has to make a choice: reveal himself as a diary holder or guarantee his safety. Using Yuki's diary, they fend off the dog attack, and Mao says, "Okay, but guess what?" Hinata emerges from the shadows and reveals it was all a ploy, but it wasn't meant for Yuki. Hinata had been trying to bait out Akise's diary. We learned that as early as a week ago, 10th revealed to his daughter that he was the killer, that he started killing to eliminate potential diary holders. However, his pursuit has taken him from his wife and family, and left him alone. Ironic, considering his goal in becoming God was to be able to provide for the people he loves, which is a pretty roundabout way of doing it. He could have just worked at like a Tesco or like, you know, a Trader Joe's. Akise agrees to forfeit his diary on one condition.
Guess which hand?
With Yuki's diary in hand, Hinata fears nothing and agrees. A warm-up throw is cast, and it's Akise's turn to guess. Yuki's diary predicts right hand, and he gives the signal to Yuno, but Hinata intercepts it. Akise, however, manages to guess the correct hand. But something about this isn't sitting right with Yuno. The coin is cast again, this time by Akise's hand, and it's up to Hinata to guess. She picks, but only for Akise to reveal that it was a bait, earning himself Yuki back, but not Yuki's diary. But before the game can continue, Yuno has had enough, and she ambushes Akise, revealing that his diary hasn't been writing a single entry. Akise confesses that he's been bluffing the whole time, with Yuno now effectively blowing the lead he was establishing. However, the game isn't over just yet.
Game over. Sorry. There's some life in the game yet, I fancy.
I don't trust you as far as I could pummel you.
Well, just so you know, I'm not in this to be an altruist. Your man's a hottie.
The coin is tossed once again, and Akise wagers a correct guess. However, he lies to Yuki and tells him that he missed. And Yuki asks too many questions. We know what happens there. Akise had Yuki dispatched so that his diary's entries would no longer be accurate, as they are based off of Yuki's perception of the future alone, whether that be true or not. Mao, sensing the two being backed into a corner, draws a knife, but not fast enough to get the draw on Yuno.
No?
With Mao mortally wounded, the group makes a retreat from the observatory, but Hinata calls the hunt back on. As the group escapes, Yuki reflects on a conversation he had with 4th.
10th tried to reassign his diary, but Deus put the kibosh on it. Said the game would be chaos if players could bow out whenever they felt the net closing in. I suspect he's not above entangling innocent people in his bid for survival. He's a psychopath.
Based off this, he decides Hinata is a victim and chooses to stay back to attempt to reason with her. Akise agrees with this plan and takes the rest of the group to distract the hunting pack. Yuno and Yuki ambush Hinata, who calls off the pack when her life is threatened. Yuki urges Yuno to back off, but it's here that we get to hear the true extent of Yuno's obsession. She pleads with Yuki, saying that her life isn't worth living if she can't be the center of his world. But if you live your life believing that everything's trying to force a wedge between you and someone, chances are you'll start to create that distance on your own. Yuki, desperate to calm Yuno down, lets her know that she'll always be special to him.
I would like to introduce you all to someone very special. This is Yuno Gasai, my, girlfriend.
Yuki! Huh, you've got way more guts in you than I would have thought, Emo.
10th speaks to Yuki and Hinata through one of the dog's mouthpieces. He offers no apology for endangering his daughter's life. Instead, he communicates a simple message about trusting people.
Beware. Few people, if any, can be trusted to the end. Don't you agree? 4th?
Ad time. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Your country or ISP might be trying to put a restriction on your internet, limiting the things that you see, hear, or even the people you talk to. At ExpressVPN, we believe in the freedom to choose.
Over here, stranger.
Using a complicated series of buttons and numbers, ExpressVPN not only protects your data, but allows you access to the full catalog of the internet.
This is the best
VPN
ever! I just
got 3 free bonus months when I signed up using expressvpn.com/hotbox.
With top ratings from CNET and this guy, let ExpressVPN help you get connected. Can you hear me now? Good. Okay, now like I was saying, I think One Piece hentai has really gone down the tubes these days. expressvpn.com/hotbox for an extra 3 months free on top of a 12-month plan. What are you waiting for?
Big fat hole in the ground for my darling Yuki. Big fat hole in the ground for my darling Yuki.
We open on Yuno singing away as she digs a hole in the ground, but she's showing signs of degradation. 1 minute she's talking away and the next minute she forgets why she's digging entirely. Ninth is rigging explosives for the 4th, but she looks at her dress and she remembers that one time that Nishijima and her met in a Spanish soap opera. Una mujer del cielo ha caído a la basura. Quédate quieta, estoy en peligro. ¿Alguien dio peligro?
Oh, mi dispare. De nuevo.
El amor que dura para siempre. CBS. God, there is nothing good on TV these days.
Akise tells Yuno about a wedding expo being held nearby, and she drags Yuki along to it. They meet Kurisu's wife there, and they actually have a nice time. Is he going to remember that she killed her fucking family? Okay, yeah, we're good. Yuki takes Yuno home, where they're met by a snooping Akise. Turns out he only tipped off Yuno to the wedding so that he could look around her house undetected. He draws back the door that originally hid Yuno's parents to reveal the hole from earlier. And when she's asked about it, Yuno can't remember a thing. In fact, she can't even remember Yuki being at the house before.
Come on. I don't want the first time you come over to leave a bad taste in your mouth.
Meanwhile, at Sakurami Police Headquarters, Kurisu briefs the force on Tenth's murder, as well as their prime suspects, Yukiteru Amano and Yuno Gasai. Under the new warrant, Yuno and Yuki are quickly apprehended as Forth sets his plan into motion. He separates the two, drawing Yuki into the interrogation room first. He says, "Yeah, that whole murder suspect thing is complete bullshit. Want to toss back a drink with your old man? I'm 14, and you're literally not my dad." "Oh yeah, right." "Oh, this is awkward. Guess I have to kill you now." Yuki is shocked. He pleads with Forth. He asks him where this aggressive playstyle came from, and Forth can only respond that he has a newly vested interest in winning this game before he pulls the trigger.
Heads up, Yuki! Drop it!
You don't wait! Get out, Yuno!
With Ho-Oh and Kyoma as their hostage, Yuno and Yuki escape to the rooftop, and a warrant for their arrest is broadcast across the building.
Yukiteru Amano and Yuno Gasai are to be arrested, dead or alive. Also, Yuno can't aim for shit. God damn! Girl, you better get your arm checked after throwing so hard.
This was Kurisu's plan all along. Paint Yuno and Yuki into a corner until they can't possibly look innocent. When Yuki is threatened, Yuno becomes a ticking time bomb after all. Yuki and Yuno evacuate up a stairwell, but several officers catch up to them. When a warning shot makes him jump, Yuki turns and fires instinctively.
Put the gun down! That was a warning shot! They're not trying to kill you! Oh my god.
Nicely done, kid.
Yuki and Yuno reach the roof before making a jump for it, but their shoes had feather falling 4 on them, so they live and they survive as fugitives.
Stop right there, criminal scum!
While hiding outside of the hospital, they spot Kurisu's wife again. Oh my god, she's in the famous Sakurami Hospital, where there hasn't been a random detonation in over 300, damn it! Ninth takes Yuki hostage, and Yuki says, "You got games on your phone?" Temporary truce! Ninth agrees to tell Yuno and Yuki what Fourth's real motive is, but not before Fourth calls her. Ninth does the same thing I do to all those scam phone numbers that call about my insurance policy.
Hey, they're not either wet or done with by the time I get there, so hurry, you move it, is that clear? You double-cross me, you're dead!
Okay, that feels better.
Ninth reveals that Fourth's son is terminally ill and was given a prognosis of 3 months to live right around the start of this game. As time went on, the pressure only grew on Fourth until he had to make some kind of move. There's donuts. Ninth says,
Makes more sense they should go to us than to some brat who's about to be food himself.
God damn, I don't know who has bigger balls, Ninth for that joke or Kurisu for ordering the SWATs to breach his son's bomb-rigged hospital. Yuno and Yuki load up for Fourth's assault, but Yuki only has enough credits for a decoy grenade, so Ninth buys him a real one.
Take these with you.
Thanks, but no thanks. I'm a lousy shot anyway.
Enemy spotted. Terrorists win.
Kurisu says he's going in himself to finish the job, and Nishijima says, "Sir, do we have clearance for this? We're the goddamn police! We're not supposed to have clearance, also you're fired!" Aw man, ACAB.
Kill a cop, kill a cop, kill a cop.
While Yuno distracts Fourth, Ninth arms an explosive. She escapes out the window and "Hace calor aquí?" Ay, Dios mío! Yuno threatens to detonate the grenade to negotiate Yuki's release. You're supposed to think this is a real grenade, even though they've literally called this a sonic grenade earlier in the show.
I have a sonic grenade left. My last one.
But I will admit, this line right here is pretty badass.
No! Let go of me!
This is where your future ends, you son of a bitch!
No, don't do it!
Random flashes of light change the language I speak. Oh, thank God that's over. Ninth's bomb detonates, which leads to a stalemate between Fourth and Yuki. Fourth says,
"How good's your aim?"
Kurisu is mortally wounded, and his diary is rendered useless. In a last-ditch effort, he deals himself out of the game, but makes one final deal with Ninth.
Do me a favor, Ninth. Hate to ask you to team up with me again, but in return, I'll deal myself out.
What are you doing?
Watch over my son.
Nishijima takes over Kurisu's position and makes sure to leave Yuki and Yuno's names out of the official report. Things slowly return to normal for the couple. They even set up a date to go stargazing out of town. And finally, after all the action, we can catch some peace and quiet. Causality is breaking down further as the game advances. Through a conversation between Deus and Murmur, we learn that the Fourth wasn't supposed to know about his son's prognosis until much later in the game. It was Murmur who told him. She did it in order to shake things up, or so she claims. Back in Sakurami, with Yuki and Yuno missing, Nishijima meets with Akise. A notebook left behind by Fourth details every death so far, as well as the diary's role in the Last Man Standing game. Priority is shifted to finding Yuki and Yuno before anyone else does. Akise posits that it certainly won't be easy. Yuno will be doing everything she can to keep Yuki safe. She wants as much control over him as possible. However, thanks to Yuki's date plans, Akise and Nishijima have a trail of public transport to follow. Eyewitness reports place them on a bus into the mountains. And you know what that means. Alpine Getaway! Oh fuck, Kosaka, hide the weed, it's the cops! FBI, open up! Nishijima and Akise paid everyone's way up here to have them help search for Yuki and Yuno. The nearby town that collapsed underneath the tourism industry is the perfect hiding place. As the group searches diligently, Hinata receives a desperate text from Yuki, that identifies him as being held in the basement of the Grand Hotel. Hinata runs ahead, but Akise doesn't trust any of it. It makes no sense for a captive Yuki to be able to send a text. Akise and the rest of the group fail to find Hinata, but stumble upon Yuki in the basement. Surprise, it's a trap. We're given an insight into Yuki's life as a captive. There was a Taco Bell in town, but it closed when the economy crashed, so now Yuki has to eat food from Sonic, a fate worse than death. Akise realizes that the camera monitoring them has to be two-way, and calls out to Yuno through it. He threatens that if they aren't released, he'll inform the police of what he found down the hole. Bodies. At the bottom of the pit at Yuno's house were 3 skeletons. 2 of them were missing their heads, and 1 was fully intact. That leaves Akise with a question. If we assume the 2 headless bodies are Yuno's parents, who does the 3rd body belong to? Yuno laughs deliriously before muting the camera and flooding the room with a toxic gas. And Kosaka says, "Fuck this, I'm writing my will." Kosaka has been keeping a diary up to this point. Okay, call it what it is. It's 2011, it's online, it's about his life that no one cares about. Kosaka has been keeping a Tumblr. After his most recent post, he earns enough Reddit karma to be promoted to Discord admin. But because none of that is canon in this world, he just gets to be an apprentice diary user. Someone is hosting a server that's taking random users' phones and turning them into satellite diaries. And if the message signature is to be believed, it appears to be 8th. There's time to worry about that later, and the group use the information inside of Kosaka's diary to escape. The diary predicts Kosaka using an air vent to escape and free Yuki, and he busts through to the holding room to ambush Yuno. Kosaka is one of those kids that can't shut up about his new iPhone, and Yuno says, "Dear God, just take the keys and leave already." It's a trap, of course. Using the first key as a decoy, Yuno incapacitates Kosaka after he frees Akise and Mao. Kosaka's confused. His diary didn't say anything about this, but Yuno reminds him that every diary has a flaw. Kosaka's diary only tells of his successes, not of his shortcomings. Yuno lines up to take the shot before Yuki stops her and says, "Hey Yuno, did you know that my hand is the same size as your face?" What? Hinata had set Yuki free by kicking the key to him, and Yuki points out the irony that the girl with his entire future in her hand can be so blind to what he does right in front of her. Yuki's diary foretells that 3 other diary users are on their way. Akise and Mao regroup with everyone before they make their escape. Yuno begs for Yuki to stay, but Yuki's not ready to be a hard-ass yet, so he says,
"Screw you."
Yes!
We're given a glimpse into 8th space. A foster home in the city. It's a place of nurturing and forgiveness, but nothing can forgive these character proportions. Yuki and everyone escape just as the foretold diary users close in, and Yuno refuses to give up on Yuki. An off-screen meeting with Deus confirms a few things. First off, 8th's diary acts like a server, creating satellite diaries with modified abilities. Second, 8th's child diaries are not directly tied to their user's lifespan. Destruction of the phone severs only the connection to the server. Third, people who pour the milk before the cereal are criminal scum and should be made fun of. With Yuno still a looming threat and 8th's users closing in, Akise decides that it's time to change the playing field. The group relocates to Kosaka's surprisingly large property. The group plans to disable a nearby cell tower, thus cutting the connection between the child diaries and 8th's main server. But there's someone they didn't count on. Yuno has caught up to the group and sabotaged the power to the house, leaving them with no remote way to cut power to the cell tower. When Akise and Kosaka leave to manually deactivate the tower, the mansion is rushed by Marco Ikusaba and Ai Mikami, a couple and 2 of 8th's holders. They chase Yuno and Yuki to the attic, wounding Hinata and Mao in the process, but they're stopped short once Akise and Kosaka make it to the tower. With Marco and Ai's diaries disabled, it seems like a one-sided battle. But we should know by now, nothing is ever as it seems. Marco and Ai are a bad influence for smoking in front of kids. The couple produces 2 phones they had been hiding up until this point. They reveal that together, they are the 7th, and their combined exchange diaries keep track of one another to the letter. Yes, this is a battle of couples, one that seems lopsided when Ai's knives can't land a hit on Yuno. Ai and Marco retreat, rescuing Hinata and Mao before proceeding to torch the whole property. Hinata says, "Aren't you guys gonna run away from the fire?" And Marco says, "Nah, they need us for character development." Marco and Ai fight Yuno and Yuki amidst a rising blaze. Marco body blocks for Ai, giving her an opportunity to critically wound Yuno. And then this scene is not only the culmination of every frustration that we've had with Yuki up until this point, but it's also an example of the biggest lesson the world has been trying to teach Yuki, that he just can't seem to listen to.
Why didn't you help your woman, you little punk? When a girl is in trouble, you jump through fire, and if there's a knife or a bullet, you take it. Why are you so spineless, huh?
No, it's not my fault. She told me I could use her. No, it isn't my fault. I know it was cowardly to hang back the way I did. I know it was. But I'm just too weak.
Go to hell.
Look, there are always two sides to every story, and we must consider that Yuki's been forced to face most of this head-on. He's had no preparation, and he's a young kid. He didn't ask for any of this. But even with all that considered, this scene makes my blood boil. Seventh as a couple are like some mirror to an alternate timeline. They represent an ideal couple, for the most part, right? They trust each other, they compensate for one another's shortcomings, and both of them are willing to react at a moment's notice to save one another. This is in stark contrast to Yuki and Yuno, where the former thinks his only option is to hide behind the latter. I can't blame Marco for being as pissed as he is in this moment, because when Yuki is crying in his hands, he claims that it's not his fault because he's too weak to do anything. He literally says, I hide behind Yuno because she says it's okay. Newsflash, just because someone says something's okay doesn't mean it's always right. This is Yuki's shortcoming. You can be upset at your weakness, frustrated even, but you have to use it as a motivation to grow. Yuki's diary is this lesson brought to form. It's a diary that contains everything around him, but nothing about himself, because the onus is on him to react accordingly. If you think your script is doomed to failure, you have to change the script and pop off. And Yuki refuses to get that through his head. Yuki has had character after character screaming this lesson in his face, but every time he lets the pain rule him. And yes, when you open yourself to so many people only to be hurt by those that you thought you could trust, that will naturally make things harder. But things won't get any easier if you don't do anything. Yuno and Yuki are taken to the hospital to have their wounds treated, but their diaries are stolen by Marco and Ai. In the hospital, Yuki is reunited with Ninth, who was brought here under Nishijima's recommendation. She's here to train Yuki so that he can better fight Seventh. Also, Yuki's dad is here because he got lost on the way to the blackjack table. Ninth proposes a series of events to test the two's strength. If Yuki wins, his father has to talk to his mother again. Spoiler alert, it's just like the real Olympics, it's all rigged. At the last event, Yuki's dad tells him the reason for the divorce was over his rampant money problems. He's still over $3 million in debt. Yuki realizes that the whole competition was just a pipe dream to begin with. But Ninth comes to deliver the real lesson.
Word to the wise. Give up and you forfeit the right to bitch about the outcome.
Yuki finishes the race to see his dad is long gone, while Nishijima meets with Ninth up the road. Nishijima reveals that this has all been part of a plan to make Seventh think that Ninth has a plan to kill them. Whether that's the truth or not, they'll be made to think so since they'll be reading Yuki and Yuno's diary. While Nishijima views this as continuing his late chief's work, Ninth has a different view on the dead.
How about the gratitude of a man doing his late captain's will?
Stop it. I hate when people talk about the dead like they can be helped. If they're in the ground, it's a waste of your friggin' time. Believe me.
Yuno, who has been watching Yuki through this whole thing, notices his father returning to the hospital to ransack Yuki's room. A mysterious phone call reveals Yuki's father has been promised enough money to clear his debt on one condition: find and destroy his son's cell phone. By process of elimination, Yuno assumes Yuki's father must be working with 11th. She has no time to make a move when all of a sudden, a call from the 7th throws a wrench in things. 7th bring Yuki, Yuno, and Yuki's father to the famous Sakurami Tower that has gone 301 days without any random detonations. Upon arrival, they're greeted by a mock wedding ceremony. Deja vu? Marco is quick to incapacitate Yuki's father, and then challenges Yuki once again, one-on-one. He wants to see if Yuki will fight a battle that looks lost just to save someone important to him. To Yuki's credit, he doesn't back down, but you can see he's still missing part of the development, as he's helpless but to just struggle and beg in Marco's hands. Silently, in the background, Yuki's father wakes up and stumbles to complete his original mission. He picks Yuki's phone up off the table and breaks it without a second thought.
This isn't happening!
Dead end. It takes a few seconds for Yuki to realize that he's still alive, enough time for Yuno to make a move on Ai, uncovering the real phones hidden in the wedding bouquet. There goes another record. Seventh's backup man, Ta. Don't know why they call him that. He has a full name. It's Taro. Are these fucking Zoomers too lazy to use his full name? Taro has begun blowing the charges. And wait a minute, we can't threaten the protagonist's life twice in less than 5 minutes. We need to break this up with some exposition. Marco and Ai's story is heartbreaking, but the strongest bonds are often forged in fire. When Ai was abandoned at Sakurami Tower, Marco and Eighth were the ones to find her and take her in. We can see that Marco's always been a bright energy to Ai, and the two are basically inseparable through school. And then, because people hate when other people are happy, Ai's classmates lay a trap for her. Using a fake note from Marco, they lure Ai to a nearby warehouse. Marco senses something's up and runs to Ai's rescue, but by the time he gets there, Ai has already been violated. And Marco loses control. Marco's guilt pushes him to take his own life, but Ai stops him. She wants to make it clear that the way to heal her pain isn't by creating more. From that moment forward, Marco swears to be there for Ai no matter what. In many ways, it's the yin to Yuki and Yuno's yang. It's the story of a man who feels like he couldn't protect what matters most to him. However, in Marco's case, he chose to use it as motivation to build himself, to be able to face the world. Yuki took the trauma and used it as an excuse to find more things to hide behind. And maybe that's why Seventh takes things so personal with Yuki, because sometimes the thing we hate to see the most is ourselves. Back to present time, Yuno saves Yuki. This proves that anime girls are better than dads. Marco and Ai flee to the higher levels to make a parachute escape, accompanied by Yuki's father and 2 shiny new wedding bands. But Yuki and Yuno beat them there because these elevators make no goddamn sense. The police are alerted to what's happening at Sakurami Tower, just as they're in the middle of searching 8's business for her server. All to no avail, of course. All units are dispatched, and Nishijima alerts Yuki's mom about what's happening as well. Marco and Ai face Yuno and Yuki once more, but Marco's disgusted to find out that Yuki's hiding again. Whether it's part of a plan or not, you would be disgusted too to learn that the person you've been trying so hard to teach a lesson has still refused to listen. Marco disables Yuno and uses her diary to track down Yuki's hiding spot. Ai holds Yuno down, but something's not right. Yuno's diary foretells of Yuki in the PA room, but when Marco checks there, it's emptier than a McDonald's job fair. It was part of Yuno's plan. She created fake entries on the decoy diary to lure Marco away from Ai. Marco realizes in time to warn Ai of Yuki's incoming dart. Yuki's shot misses, but Yuno's knife doesn't.
Today's the worst day of your whole entire life, then tomorrow automatically has to be better, right?
Marco.
Sakurami Tower continues to cave in above the couples, and Yuki's father makes off with the only parachute. And for someone who just cut a girl's carotid artery, Yuno really gave that one up without a fight, huh? When Yuki's father lands, he's met by Yuki's mother, who has nothing but questions. Yuki's father is desperate to make a retreat by any means necessary. Beneath the rubble, Ai's diary foretells that Marco escapes as she bleeds out, but she forgets that Marco is literally the best character in the whole series, so he comes back to save her. Yuno is driven by bloodlust, and further tortures Ai to pressure Marco to work faster, while Yuki begs her to stop. And Marco can't believe the bullshit he's hearing right now, and lets Yuki know in no uncertain terms.
What the hell is wrong with you, Burst? You let that crazy little bitch do all the dirty work for the two of you, and then you tell her to show your enemies mercy? How have you gotten this far, Burst? You forget who's been keeping your ass alive this whole time? Who's been doing all all the damn wet work, huh? But there you are, little man, warning me not to fall for her trap, cause you ain't got the stones for all this!
If you listen carefully, you notice that it's a lot of what Ninth was trying to tell him before. If you give up, if you surrender control to Yuno, you lose the right to bitch about the outcome. It's the thing that Marco and practically everyone else has been trying to tell Yuki over and over. If he wants things to change, he has to make them change. He has no right to cry about how things are if he hides behind Yuno and lets everyone do the work for him. Beggars can't be choosers. Marco also has words for Yuno too. Yuno goes on and on about protecting Yuki, but she's just as guilty for his stagnation. She's left him no room to grow. She suffocated him because she thinks that's good for him.
You posers don't know the first thing about love.
When Marco says that Yuno and Yuki don't know the first thing about love, he's not entirely wrong. Yuki and Yuno are selfish, and their diaries reflect that. Notice that Yuno's goal is to secure her future with Yuki. She cares about Yuki so long as he stays within the confines of what she wants from the relationship. Her diary is all about this obsession. Meanwhile, Yuki's goal has always been to survive, with or without Yuno. His diary making careful observations of the world as it appears to him. Marco and I, by contrast, are two people that love each other unconditionally, and their diaries reflect this balance. Two people that observe and care for each other, and diaries that help them adapt to meet their partner's needs. Marco and I's love is motivated. Marco didn't have to be threatened to dig for I. He wanted to, because whatever time that I had left before she died was time that was precious to Marco. Marco's wounds and this game are all insignificant to him right now, because he's focused on the person that truly matters to him, the person that he truly loves. Yuki and Yuno fight alongside each other. Marco and I fight together. That is why these two couples are each other's mirror, and that's why their relationship should not be understated in the scheme of this game. Marco, Yuki, and Yuno manage to lift the rubble, and I die slowly in Marco's arms. Marco surrenders his parachute, and Yuki and Yuno leap to safety. Marco and I die as the last parts of the tower give way. They may not have become gods, but they die together, which means that they died truly happy.
You know what, though? This is all I wanted. You and me together until the end.
Yuki and Yuno touch down in the same park that Yuki's father landed in. Nishijima is there waiting for them. He warns Yuki that something's happened, but the pair of glasses next to the body on the stretcher tells Yuki everything he needs to know.
Did you hear me? Your mother, she's...
Before returning to the present, we're given a glimpse into Yuno's past. We can see the ways that she's always been eccentric to protect Yuki. And we're also shown how her parents truly died. Yuno drugged them and locked them in the same cage that they had locked her in time and time again. Whether she meant for them to die or not, that's what happened. Yuno has always been a broken person, so when she found a future in Yuki, it's no surprise that she was quick to latch on. Back in the present, Yuki pleads with Deus to return his mother. Deus replies that his power has diminished too far as causality continues to collapse. Yuki's father shows up, and this is so frustrating. I have to break character. This whole little arc is meant to make us feel for Yuki's father. Like, we get to see him visit his wife's shrine, he reflects on the time they spent together as a family, but it feels late. Like, he gets the family telescope out of storage because he wants to show Yuki that he wants to be a family again, and he says it's too bad they didn't get to do any real sky watching. Like, okay, you could have done that if you didn't turn your wife into a special from the Outback Steakhouse. I looked it up. One of the top searches for this show is, why did Yuki's dad kill his mom? And then there's the obvious answer, oh, because she saw him come from Sakurami Tower without a parachute, without Yuki. He's a lying asshole. He could have just said that he didn't see Yuki or that he didn't have time to save him. Raya Amano's death was 100% pointless. If Yuki's father was anything other than self-motivated, he could have realized there were a million other ways to handle that situation. He would have never thought to raise a hand against the person that he loved. Like, my take, I think Yuki's dad is some of Yuki's worst traits personified. He takes the easy way out, and then he has the nerve to complain about how things are. He gets rolled by one of 11's guards. Fucking deserved. 0 out of 10 character. Alright, let's see. They're killing. Yuki's crying. Oh yeah, the narration. Okay. Yuki reveals that Murmur told him that becoming God would let him bring back whoever he'd like, and Yuno reiterates that she's ready to give herself up when it suits Yuki best. Meanwhile, at City Hall, a measure to close Mother's house, aka 8th's home base, teeters on approval before Mayor John Bacchus's passionate speech pushes it forward. How astute and completely unmotivated by anything. Oh, he's totally 11th, isn't he?
Deus, I sent first and second a funny post on Instagram, and they left me on red. I would like them out of the game right now, please and thank you.
Oh, you don't even follow me!
Yuki shows up with Yuno in tow and 11th was Mayor John Bacchus. I would have never guessed in a million years. Deus sells everyone's data to third-party advertisers, which unmasks everyone's identity. Wouldn't have happened if they used a VPN. ExpressVPN. Yuki reveals that he learned everything he needed just from sitting at City Hall and letting his diary do the rest of the work. With the other users unmasked, the clock is ticking faster than ever. Then we cut back to some neck cafe in the middle of nowhere, and it turns out Yuki had a script for the whole damn thing. Marco didn't die for you to keep letting Yuno do all the work, Yuki. Nishijima reveals to 9th that Akise is closing in on the identity of the third body from Yuno's house, and 9th reveals to Nishijima that 11th is the mayor, much to Nishijima's concern, as he's just been assigned to the mayor's security detail, and the terrorist team is full, so he can't switch mid-game. Yuno and Yuki make a deal with 8th to ambush 11th. This is a very wholesome scene that reflects 8th's loving and pure nature, so that means someone's gonna lose a head soon. Oh yeah, there it is. No! Yuno and Yuki concocted this plan to corner not only 8th, but 11 in one fell swoop. But they didn't account on 11th choosing to save 8th's life instead. Yuki and Yuno chase 11th, who uses his diary to predict their shots and movements. Yuki rams 11th's car, and 11th tries to activate the flying car button, but the English on this import car is not the best, and oh, that's not how you drive a car. Yuno corners 11th and says, "Are you ready to die, John Bacchus?" And 11th says,
"You fool. Don't you know there are still 7 more episodes left? Look, a diversion."
It's Akise and Minane. Chill, 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 chill. Akise reveals that after positively identifying the headless bodies as Yuno's wealthy, banking parents, he was hard-pressed to find any DNA match to body number 3. That is, until he went to the orphanage where Yuno lived as a child. You see, Yuno was never her parents' biological daughter. The Gasais were incapable of having children, so Yuno was adopted from a young age. At that orphanage, they happened to keep one smoking gun. A piece of Yuno Gasai's umbilical cord. The DNA was a 100% match to body number 3, which leaves only one question. If that's Yuno, then who's this? Yuki says, "I don't give a shit, let me use a bloom transition to make my escape." Whoosh! With Yuno and Yuki gone, 11th moves forward on his plan with 8th. Nishijima leaks the details to 9th. They'll be meeting at the Holland supercomputer. According to 11th, every citizen in Sakurami has an account that runs through this machine in one way or the other, and by linking 8th's diary to it, every citizen of the city will become diary holders. He wants to make a city of gods. Should have voted this guy out when he started talking about the Macedonians and the Nazis.
Macedonia, Rome, Germany. Sakurami will stand beside them in the annals of history.
Careful viewers will note this exchange between 8th and 11th mimics the relationship of their respective gods, Hestia and Dionysus, within the Deconsentes. Hestia giving her Olympian seat to the more forceful Dionysus to prevent heavenly conflict. Even though no ancient source or myth describes such a surrender or removal, blah blah blah. Do they mention my fucking grenade? 11th says, "Una reverse." How did he know 9th was there? That kid is definitely playing with walls.
Do you guys ever get that weird glitch in CSGO where it shows your rank?
Nishijima saves Minane from 11th's men and says, "Something about bushes sure does get me in a Marian mood, what do you say?" Are you fucking kidding me? Have my children.
How much longer on the server transfer?
Like 3.5 minutes, boss. Just gotta finish this beat map, download. 9th storms the base, but is apprehended immediately. Checked once again by 11th's diary. This is the end for 9th. Just kidding, cause TSA forgot to check Nishijima, so he detonates the bomb and saves the day. Turns out that was just an apple factory, so no real crimes were committed here. But 11th's plan did go off without a hitch, and now everyone in Sakurami can see the future.
Get down, man! It's not worth it! You don't understand. I've seen the future. There's a world where Silk Song never comes out.
Oh, Jesus, man, go right ahead.
Be next.
Deus says,
"Fuck this shit,"
and hits the armor lock. Deus knows Murmur is up to something. It's just a matter of how to counter it. Nishijima and Minane meet up with Kosaka, Hinata, and Mao. And Kosaka says, "Hey, Ninth, what's that thing that 90% of the viewer base wants to do to you?"
Fuck me.
Through the kids' new satellite diaries, Ninth learns that the portion of Holan that needs to be destroyed is held within City Hall. Ninth tries to push everyone away for their own safety, including Nishijima, but he likes it when she plays hard to get. Before their confrontation, Ninth talks to Deus. Deus, I wish to know the secret of 11th's diary. Also, I have an itch that I cannot scratch.
I will solve one of your problems. Pick now.
I guess the itch. Deus is feeling generous, so he also tells Ninth about 11th's diary, the Watcher. It was created to be able to monitor every diary in play. You see, John was apparently the one who suggested the idea of phones as diaries to Deus. Based off of Deus's information, Ninth deduces that the way to beat the Watcher is with information overload. By falsifying diary entries, the group's movements become impossible to track. His assistant has a backup. These dev weapons have no purpose in competitive play. Look at them, they're so overpowered, it's not even fun. God, I need these things like I need an arm blown off.
Minane!
I have got to stop ending my sentences like that. Ninth's arm is completely obliterated, and Nishijima is shot through the chest. He spends his last breaths on the person that he truly loves.
I love you!
You stupid son of a bitch!
Surprise! Yuki is here, hiding behind everyone as bait again. Yuki and Yuno's plan is to use the public and the media to put pressure on 11th. Yuno rescues Kosaka and the gang, while Yuki and Ninth press further into the building, eventually ending up in the connected Gasai Bank. 11th takes refuge behind the double fortified doors, and while the first lock folds, the second lock is layered with a retinal scanner that only opens to the Gasai family or Yuno. Now in checkmate, Yuki has a new enemy. Ninth hunts Yuki while Yuno rushes to his position, following a failed ambush on 8th. Minane laments a sentiment that many other characters have given towards Yuki. They see some of themselves in him. They pity that part, but unlike some others, Minane doesn't hold back.
You remind me of how pathetic I was back in the day, when I was just a little girl and my losses were still fresh. But you gotta face the facts. You ain't ever gonna get him back, kid. Your parents are dead!
The static of the future changing finally reveals Yuki's position, but it's a red herring, and Yuki quickly disarms Ninth. But a frustrated Ninth lets him know what's really on her mind.
Stop being such a bitch! Own your sins! You murdered him because it was better them than you!
In a moment of desperation, Ninth lunges for her gun again, but she hesitates, the same kind of hesitation that stopped 4th and Marco before her. She freezes long enough for Yuki to land a shot. 11th taunts the first from beyond the vault door, but a bloody and battered Ninth isn't done just yet. She reveals her dead man switch. Her intention is to break her diary and blow the vault door. Her last wish to Yuki?
So I'll take care of the open sesame part. But whatever goes down after that is on your head. So own it.
Ninth cries for her own humanity. As she crushes her diary, the bomb detonates. The smoke clears to reveal not even a scratch. Yuno arrives and tells a frustrated Yuki to go back and destroy Holan while she handles things here. 11th laughs from his chair at the idea of an imposter possibly getting into the vault. It's down to the final 3 in this game. There's no time to waste. Yuki must find it in him to not only kill 8th, but Yuno as well, the person who's been by his side this whole time. Oh, I'm sorry, did I say by his side? I mean, wearing him like a backpack with how hard she's been carrying him. Akise and the rest of the gang rendezvous with 8th. As much as they all agree Yuki is the best candidate for Godhead, There are other more pressing issues. All of them seem to center around Yuno Gasai. We're at the end of this game and we don't know any more about Yuno than when we started, and her silence to investigators doesn't make her any easier to trust. Akise says, wait, how many episodes are left in this show? 4. Why? Oh no. Causality begins to break down in tandem with Deus's body. Frankly, if I wanted to watch reality tear apart at the seams, I would just say something controversial on Minecraft Twitter. 8th and Akise meet with Deus. You may be wondering why Akise is able to enter the mental realm. That's because he's an Evangelion reference, so he's
Knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door.
Akise asks Deus if it's truly possible for Yuki to bring people back from the dead if he becomes God, and Deus says,
"What the fuck are you smoking? I need 20 of that shit."
Akise will be buying no drugs today because Deus will be holding on to him. In the Akashic Records. You see, according to Deus, Akise was created by him as an observer, a man on the ground who could witness and progress the game in ways that Deus was incapable of. Since Deus serves as a god, Akise could be interpreted as an angel herald, delivering and dispensing God's will. As Akise's body breaks down, Deus proposes a deal. If Akise can muster one thing that he did on this earth of his own free will, Deus will return him to existence. Akise struggles as he pores over every investigation. All are rendered useless in the face of Deus's explanations. This makes Akise think more abstract. What's something that has motivated him through everything he's done? That's when he finds it.
My love for Yuki, it's real. I feel it even now.
Deus says,
"Impossible. An angel cannot love a human."
Akise says, "Yes, maybe in my current form, but could he love a human with an iPhone 14s Max?"
Oh shit.
Akise, who had previously been using a Nokia 3210, has qualified to a new upgrade thanks to Verizon and ExpressVPN. He now has Touch ID, an impressive 2.5-hour battery life, and so many emoji that he answers to no god. With the combined efforts of 8th and Kosaka, Akise's phone has become a new future diary, one that watches even the Watcher, the detective diary. It's a manifestation of Akise's desire to protect Yuki and his brand loyalty to a questionable California tech company. Akise says, "Damn, it smells like broken here, deuces!" Yuki and Yuno head for the others, intent on killing 8th and ending the game. Keep in mind, Yuki still has no reason to assume that the dead cannot be brought back. As far as he's concerned, anyone who stands in the way of him and the God Throne is against him. That's what Yuno's been feeding him. So you can imagine his confusion when he sees Akise shielding 8th's escape along with the rest of the group. Yuno sends Yuki ahead and attempts to fight Akise, but Yuno didn't count on her every move being predicted. It's strange, I'm getting a prediction that a knife will fall in you. Oh, come on! Akise is left with a dilemma. Saving Yuno risks losing time catching up to Yuki. Akise decides that he needs to be back on Earth at least a full day before he catches a homicide case, and then he runs to meet up with Yuki. Yuki catches up to Hinata, who tells him the truth. What's dead is dead, and this is something that is practically impossible for Yuki to comprehend. In part because of everything he's been told, and in part because none of him wants to believe this. Yuki hasn't learned a goddamn thing, because rather than facing the reality that he might have been responsible for enough deaths to write a poke rap, he's hiding behind the idea that the end justifies the means. Because why not let yourself believe that there's a way to magically undo it all at the end? Then none of it matters, right? Over and over again, Yuki cannot stop this hiding, and people have literally died trying to teach him to do otherwise. Yuki didn't ask for any of this, but that doesn't make him impervious to his actions being criticized. Hinata says, "Come on, we're all friends, right?" And Yuki gets a phone call from Yuno that says,
"Did you just say something wholesome in this show? Oh, you know what happens when you do that."
Believe it or not, the death that hits me the most here is Kosaka's. Because for as shitty as he's been, his death is loaded with meaning. He says he's not gonna make Yuki do anything, subtly enforcing the idea that the choices Yuki has made so far are his own, not some grand necessity. Kosaka tells Yuki just before his death that he's sick of Yuki's crying. And what does Yuki do? Shoots him in the chest and then cries about it. It's downright poetic. Akise finally catches up to Yuki, who's run out of bullets, leaving him helpless while Akise begs and pleads with him to reconsider his thinking.
You deserve someone who will always tell you the truth.
In movies and television, we tell stories with color, and you could say Akise's character design complements this line well. White hair to represent purity, truth, piercing reddish-pink eyes to communicate passion. I mean, the same could be said for Yuno as well. Her pink hair scheme to convey innocence and the flush of love. Or maybe you feel for Yuki because of his baby blues. Blue is often associated with sensitivity and stability. Yuno and Akise fight once more, and Akise is triumphant, but something's wrong. Yuno doesn't skip a beat as her phone is destroyed, and her knife severs Akise's windpipe, leaving him to bleed out amongst the rubble. In his last moments, Akise's mind races as Yuno and Yuki kill 8th. Nothing makes sense. A decoy? It couldn't have been. It made static as it broke. That's the hallmark of a real diary. That thing had to be Yuno's diary. It had Amano's name all over it. Wait. Amano? Yuno always calls him Yuki in her entries. 2 of the same diary. A 3rd body that matches Yuno Gasai. A survival game to succeed God. 2 phones. 2. The final pieces of Deus crumble as Akise comes to his realization, but he faces an obstacle. With his throat cut, he has no way to speak. Desperate, he hammers the message onto his phone as Yuno closes in. Yuno's knife is swift, but Akise's will is strong. By force or by chance, Akise's message makes it to Yuki. With the rest of the diary holders dead, and Murmur assuming Deus' chair, the world has a scarce few days left. It all ends on 7/28. Yuki says, "Fuck it, I'm here for a good time, not a long time." The next 3 days were an affront to God. It's a lot of blow and sex with models, but because this is a family website, I can show you none of it. Yuki wakes up out of his bender. Can't remember if he went to bed with Yuno or Cristiano Ronaldo. He looks at Yuno and says, "You think I was high?" Akise was talking about how this universe is really the second version of itself. He said you won the first game, and you killed the Yuno from this timeline. Oh shit, I forgot he was straight edge! With her secret out, Yuno turns on Yuki completely. Yuki escapes to a separate room where Murmur picks him up and explains everything. Turns out Yuno got banned for TK in the first server. Now this universe is basically her Smurf account. According to Murmur, the first Yuno was the Yuno that Yuki remembers fondly. By the time they had agreed to marry, Yuno's parents had been long dead. Following their promise, the first world survival game began. Just like this world, Yuno and Yuki were left as the last ones standing, determined to go out together. However, Yuno had the same naive idea that Yuki did, that she could win the game and bring everyone back, including her beloved. This is where we get the scene from our prologue. Yuno begging to a boy that won't ever wake up again. Yuno knew the dead couldn't be returned from the very start, and what's worse is she knew it from experience. But she let Yuki believe it. Yuno sent herself to a world where Yuki was still alive, and that's when Yuno assumed her place in the second timeline, the one we're in now. Of course the 3rd body matched Yuno's DNA, because it was her. Murmur knew about all this from the start. She followed Yuno the first time. Murmur is the reason that Yuno kept this secret from Deus for so long, as well as the reason that Yuno held diaries from both iterations of herself. Back in the present, Yuno's vision has become entirely warped. Yuki's reasoning may not be great, but Yuno's isn't any better. She's ready to slash Yuki to bits for the chance to go back in time and do it all over again. On the one hand, her delicate frame of mind following her parents' death has to be considered. Yuki gave her something to live for. But to destroy everyone behind you for a chance at your own happiness is nothing but selfish. Murmur drops Yuki, and just like that, the game is over.
Wait, it's you?
Dying is for pussies.
9th is back, a wrench that Murmur didn't expect in her plans. Or that I'm pretty sure 90% of you didn't expect, but are you upset? Come on, it's me, Nene. Murmur takes Yuno and flees into space and time, with Yuki and 9th right on their tail. The trail takes them to... current day? Just kidding, Yuki checks the calendar and it's 2 years ago. We're in a goddamn isekai. Yuki asks 9th how she's still alive, and 9th explains that upon her bomb's detonation, Deus pulled her from the mortal world. In a previous meeting, he had given her half of his remaining power and knowledge. The memory had just been locked until Deus deemed it appropriate. So Deus Ex Machina pulled a Deus Ex Machina by saving 9th from certain death, so that 9th could perform a Deus Ex Machina by saving Yuki from certain death. History repeats itself. Yuki and Ninth arrive at the third Yuno's house to find Yuno 3 in critical condition. Don't interfere, because then we'll make a paradox and shit just starts breaking everywhere, and Yuki says, 911, hello please, my past future girlfriend is dying! The first Yuno and Murmur show up and shit starts breaking. First World Yuno is caught by the paramedics, but is taken off guard by her father's surprising warmth. This is the only way she knows how to respond to affection. I mean, have you seen what she's been doing to Yuki? Yuki is determined to save both Yunos as him and Ninth escape to the elementary school. And Ninth says, yeah, I'm a god, but you're tripping balls right now, dude. And leaves Yuki to fight for himself. He locks Yuno 3 away in their old classroom and faces off against First World Yuno. Yuno says, Yuki, what the fuck are you doing? I'm literally a god. And Yuki says, I love you, you crazy bitch. Unbeknownst to any of them, the rest of the Future Diary users watch from afar. This chaos is having butterfly effects on their lives.
Anyway, listen carefully, Kurisu. Your boy has a heart condition. It hasn't been detected yet, but if you wait much longer, he'll die before he's reached another birthday. Get him checked out now, and there might be something you can do about it.
Who the hell is this?
There, I kept my side of the bargain.
Yuki attempts to reason with Yuno, but Yuno's completely lost control. She's ready to do whatever it takes. While Ninth fights Murmur, Yuno traps Yuki inside of a dream world within her causality ball. This is what she views as a compromise and a breakup. So much so that in this world, Yuki can't even say Yuno's name. Yuno figures that if she traps Yuki here, not only does she know he's alive, but she can focus all of her efforts on the third world Yuki and winning the game again. Yuno is realizing that she's in a codependent relationship and needs space. This is the most sense she's talked all series, and she's supposed to be delirious right now. In a way, this realm is the couple's most selfish traits realized. For Yuno, her desire to have Yuki safe and protected. She wants her idea of what Yuki's happiness should be, what she thinks is best. Ironically, that involves removing the thing that Yuki has come to love the most. Yuno. And for Yuki, it's everything he wanted. A world without the consequences of his actions, where nothing matters and things are perfect. But if nothing changes, can a person truly be happy? Ninth fights to free Yuki, but Yuno releases Murmur's bonds. Surprise, she was evil all along. Oh man! With Ninth incapacitated, Yuno moves to end her third world self's life. But Yuno's caught off guard when she wakes up. Who are you?
I am Yuno Prime.
Huh?
I'm your sleep paralysis demon who can also see the future.
Oh god damn it, did I eat the couch cushions again? Yuno 1 tells Yuno 3 everything that will happen, from her parents' abuse right to the very end. But even knowing everything, Yuno 3 refuses to give up. God Yuno takes a step back and realizes that this was a time before she had lost hope, leaving her confused as to how she ended up the person that she is now. While Yuno struggles to make up her mind, the future is rewriting itself at a breakneck pace. Hiyama is captured by Yomotsu, who is brought out patrolling by the madness. Kariudo repairs his relationship with Hinata. Even John Bacchus, 11th, abandons his future diary plan. You see, this mess gave him time to check one of his prototypes, which foretold his death, and that the winner would end the world to suit their own means. When this information reaches Deus, it dissuades him from the game entirely. The changing timeline is slowly breaking the hold that Yuno has over Yuki. Kurisu and the police arrive on the scene, and Nishijima stumbles upon the barely breathing Ninth. Yuno swings on her third incarnation, only for it to be blocked by her father, followed soon by her mother, who arrived with the rest of the task force. The display of love is sobering to Yuno, almost as if her own future is being rewritten. Kurisu arrives with his gun drawn, but it doesn't faze the determined Yuno. She raises her knife, and as the hammer of the gun snaps, so too do the chains holding Yuki back. But not just Yuki, the second world's Murmur that Yuno's Murmur had imprisoned. Murmur 2 blocks the bullet. Meanwhile, Yuno is stunned. She thought for sure that Yuki would choose a world of his dreams, not realizing that the thing that brings Yuki happiness was missing the whole time. However, Yuki makes a staggering demand. He asks Yuno to kill him so she can reset everything. All this time, and he still hasn't learned.
At least I can say it was you.
You're a freak. You know that? Know where your rights this time. Let the future be what it is.
And the winner is first! All hail Yukiteru Amino!
Murmur whisks Yuki back to the second world to face what remains. The final glimpse we're given into Sakurami City shows us that the third world is stable and shining brighter than ever. The former diary holders are now living their lives where they belong, in the moment. Yuno's relationship with her family is stronger than ever. In fact, they recently went on a trip, one that Yuno kept a diary of on her phone. Yuki and his family are alive and well, and Deus is set to rule for many years to come. Back in the second world, a lonely god Yuki broods over an empty dimension. Murmur begs and urges him to start something new, but for Yuki, a world without Yuno is pointless. Yuki is content to stare at his diary forever, a shadow of a world left behind. Yuki ends the series in tears, crying to himself over the choices that he's made. Some things never change. I think The Future Diaries ending is exactly what it needs to be. Now, there is an OVA where Yuno of the third world gets the Yuno of the first world's memories, and she breaks through the dimensions to find Yuki, blah, 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 happy ending. Have you seen this shit? Akise has a glowing katana, and Ninth is wearing crew socks. This is obviously a dream sequence. Well, that settles it. Hotbox is going to hell. Wait, what? Why? He made 2 Overwatch jokes in the same video. Oh god, yeah, that's me. Considering the episode 26 ending as the canon ending, The Future Diary ends right where it needs to. The whole series is about the choices we make, and as much as we try to play God, we're never truly in control. And we need to learn how to face that and own what we do. Our protagonists are 2 extremes. Yuno is what happens when you let the future rule you, when you get so lost in chasing the outcome that you destroy yourself in the here and now. And Yuki is what happens when you let the past rule you. Letting everything behind you be what dictates you will only hold you back. You can't hide from the way things are forever. Their mutual downfall is forgetting to enjoy the present. This relationship between past, present, and future is even portrayed by the 3 worlds. Think about it. The first world was ruled by the future, how the survival game would end, and who would succeed God. The second world was ruled by the past. As much as it was about the future and the outcome of the game, Yuno's presence made it about the past. History repeating itself, and refusing to learn from our mistakes. And the third world, therefore, is the present. It's what happens when we remember and cherish the things that we have in front of us, and we use those things to work to make a better life. That's why the Yuno of the third world held out hope. She was made to represent a world that believes not only in the present, but the future that can be made from the present. The ending is fitting for the choices that Yuki and Yuno made, and the way that their characters developed. Yuno's was a bit more mature. From the start, she was so focused on her idea of a perfect Yuki and a perfect world that she destroyed everything around her. She realizes that she can't go on like that, and if she wants to create happiness, she'll end this now so that she doesn't hurt anyone else. Yuki, over the course of this whole game, never realizes that you can't have your cake and eat it too. If you try to make everything right, you'll end up with nothing left. And that's just what happens. Yuki ends up in a lonely realm, living a lonely life, because he was too busy trying to fix everything. The power to move forward and create is literally at his fingertips. He's a god, but he's too focused on what could have been, to focus on what could be. His diary is like a monument to this. It's a shadow of a past that he's content to chase for thousands of years. Yuno and Yuki could never exist together. Their relationship is simply too toxic. Yuno and Yuki feed into the worst in each other and themselves. Yuki scratches Yuno's need to obsess and protect, and Yuno feeds into Yuki's tendency to sit back and shut up. They suffocate each other when they're meant to help each other grow. But does that mean that they don't love each other? No, I think Yuno and Yuki definitely love one another, in some way. I mean, Yuno was willing to tear the world apart again and again for a chance to see Yuki once. And Yuki was willing to face death over and over if it meant saving Yuno. Even if their actions are misguided, selfish, and absolutely stupid at most times. Isn't that what love tends to be? I think Yuno and Yuki had a chance. I mean, they certainly have heart, but their inability to mutually resolve their own issues stood in the way of them ever growing together. By bending over backwards to save one another, they forgot to save themselves first. The Future Diary is a great show, and an excellent cautionary tale. It's meant to show us the importance of the here and now. You can't live the dream if you're living in the past, or the future for that matter. For every frustrating moment, there is just as equally a moment that will leave you on the edge of your seat begging for more. I give The Future Diary 7 out of 10. Oh, and get this, would recommend. And this has been The Hotbox. Thank you so much for watching. I love doing these long-form media projects. If you're interested in seeing more, go ahead and leave a like, and why not subscribe? Whenever you're watching this, I hope you have a good rest of your day and an even better tomorrow. I love you. And before you say it back, look in the mirror and say it to yourself. I will see you in the next episode of whatever I make. And until then, this has been The Hotbox. Bye. With Ho and Kyome as their hostage, Yuno realizes that this arc needs to end it. Forgot I wrote that.
Silence, trash!